Elizabeth, you want to introduce us?
Sure. So welcome to the Mutual Aid Hub meeting. And I'll introduce myself, and then I think Ricky and then Asha and Celeste can introduce themselves as well. I'm Elizabeth Bogomil. I'm part of Mutual Aid LA, and I'm also some of the admin team for Mutual Aid Hub. And I'll bounce over to Ricky.
Hi, I'm Ricky de la Veaga, he or they, L or AA if you want to address me in Spanish. And yeah, I'm part of Ground Game LA, Mutual Aid LA, and now Mutual Aid Hub. Very happy to be here and getting to know the staff from GivingTuesday. So kick it over to Asha.
Thank you, Ricky and Elizabeth. It's so nice to be here. Hello, everyone. My name is Asha. I'm CEO of GivingTuesday, which is an organization and a global movement which is working toward a better world through radical generosity. And we are interested in generosity in all of its forms. And we think that this is a really amazing and inspirational and interesting one, and we would like to support it and understand it and uplift it and amplify it, because we don't believe that it gets the recognition that it deserves. Celeste?
Hello and good afternoon from the DC area. My name is Celeste, and I am with GivingTuesday. I was about to say my previous organization a long time ago, but I am so grateful to be with you today. I work specifically with leaders in communities who are lifting up a campaign in some way, or community activation to increase generosity. And it looks in many different ways, many different forms all over the US. That's the area in which I work. And I am in my network of leaders. I have community organizers, grassroots leaders, activists, people who are part of organized groups. And then I support that network, and I'm just so grateful to continue this conversation with Mutual Aid Hub. We started our partnership or our conversation with Mutual Aid Hub back when it was under Town Hall Project, and now in its new home at Ground Game. And I've gotten to know Ricky and Elizabeth, and we're so grateful to see how we're coming at this in service. We want to know a whole lot more, but at the same time, we want to give and be mutually a giver of generosity, as you are giving up your time today. So thank you for being here.
Wonderful. Did one of you just want to start off with like an overview of Starling Collective and yeah, let us know what that's all about.
Well, I have a formal presentation only because I love pictures. So I'm going to share my screen here, and then I'll, Ricky, send you a link so that you can send this on with the recording if people have questions. And we are available for questions about the Starling Collective. So let's get started. Let's see if I can share my screen. Here we go. So as Ricky introduced us and gracious enough to call on the network to have a call with us, really this can be a conversation, and we hope this is one of many conversations with this network. But we wanted to bring to you and talk to you about our Starling Collective. It is a part of GivingTuesday. But before I start talking about the that we hope, I'm sorry, I should say the Starling Collective is a part of GivingTuesday that we hope this network will take advantage of and be a part of and consider applying for. And I'll get into the specifics about Starling Collective, but I wanted to start first with a little framing about GivingTuesday. I think there's lots of, not misconceptions, but I think GivingTuesday is different things to different people. And then there's some people who really don't know much about it. But I wanted to kind of first lay the platform of who we are. We're a super small team, as Asha said. We are an organization, but it's really, we're behind a movement of thousands and thousands of leaders out in the community doing good in their community. So the day started 10 years ago. It started as kind of a holiday. It was the day after Black Friday, Cyber Monday, a day to do good. And that was the genesis of it. Now we've evolved and into year round with our leaders and really trying to make sure that people understand that there are 52 Tuesdays in a year, but more importantly, making it part of our fabric of our life and lifestyle. So it started, again, a day to do good, and it manifests in many different ways. It's about an individual who gives what they can, and then it goes all the way to formalized groups coming together to activate their community. But the real point of the day is to redefine who is a giver and who's a recipient of generosity. Anyone can give, anyone can receive. And that is what Giving Tuesday is about. And something that Asha had mentioned a second ago about radical generosity, our organization's evolved a lot, but really at the heart of what we're doing is trying to instill radical generosity in communities and all over the world. We have a definition here. A lot of people are like, what is radical generosity? Isn't that just generosity? But really it's this notion, it's not about a certain expression of generosity. It is about all the ways that we can give of ourselves. It is about reciprocity and mutuality and solidarity. It is about sharing what we have and being on common ground, that everybody has the ability to receive and everybody has the ability to give. And really the radical generosity part is that our belief that that someone else is suffering is just as important as our own suffering. And it's not good enough for people to just to survive, but to thrive. And leaders in our network are the ones that make this happen in their community. So a little bit more about how big we are. I did start in the US, but we are in 70 countries. So we have leaders in 70 countries who've taken on that mantle of Giving Tuesday and made it relevant in their relevant activation, movement, engagement that is meaningful and relevant to that country. The expression of generosity looks so different in so many different countries. And we're so excited to be in front of all of you today, but really the idea and the notion of mutual aid and community care is sometimes the only expression of generosity in some of the countries that we are working in. So we see the many definitions, how it manifests, and we're just growing every year of having a formal leader who does this on the side of their desk, to bring generosity and under the Giving Tuesday mantle to their countries. So it's grown quite a bit, and we're within those countries, we're in communities, local communities, and that's my purview. At least in the US, I work with leaders all over city, town, states, all over the US, who are creating some sort of activation around their community to show an expression of generosity. Many of them do it year round, not just on Giving Tuesday. They use the day as a holiday. But then I also have communities that come together based on an identity, something very specific, a cause, a culture, a religion, something that make their definition of community. The definition of community is the leader's definition of community, just rallying people that they identify with to do something good. And of course, this is, I'm speaking to the right group who does this all the time and who is, organized to do this work year round. But that is who is in our network. As I said, it's a leaderful movement. It is people like you who are doing the work in their communities to encourage generosity, but really the generosity is an action to lead to something else. It is about building the community in which we want to see, to right something that we feel is wrong. And it really, the generosity isn't necessarily the end goal, but it is the means or the conduit in which could lead to radical change in many different systems. It could lead to equity. It could lead to a lot more of an impact than a transaction. And we're not talking about transaction here, a transactional change either. We're really talking about impact, and it's because these proximate leaders, these leaders who are in their very specific community, also know the best way to uplift a solution and know what solutions their communities need. And so Giving Tuesday is about mobilizing communities. These are just some examples of activations and work that was being done last year, again, under that mantle of Giving Tuesday, and happening in Bridgeton, New Jersey, to Pakistan, to Liberia, all taking this act of generosity. And they were all part of, these three examples were part of Starling last year. Starling was stood up last year, and we'll get to that in a minute on the history. But these three programs were part of the Starling Collective, and they were answering a call of what my community needs right now. And this is how they stood out generosity and were supported through the Starling Collective. It was not only focused on that project, but focused on them as a leader. Again, more activations in communities all over the world. But we also have a kid element, a youth element to Giving Tuesday that not a lot of people know about. So I thought I'd throw this in here. It's just different ways that our young people engage. We have what we call Giving Tuesday Spark, and it ranges in age, and it's activations that kids all over the world are standing up some sort of, I guess, not chapter, that's not the right word, but some spark movement in their communities. Yes, it is a big day, but like I said, it is more of a holiday. We are about giving year round, and it is about this is just showing the monetary giving, but what we know is that it's millions and millions and millions of expressions of goods, service, activations, activism that is most important to us. And so I put this up here too about a little bit about the movement itself, and like what are our kind of marching orders. What are the things that we rally around and what we believe in and what our leaders in their communities believe in? And not a lot of people put up their value statements for an organization, but I think it's really important for us to visit and to show that we as a movement are about co-creation and about distribution of power. And we are we make decisions in that lens. We work with proximate leaders through that lens. And it is about collaboration and really learning from one another. So a good part of my job is working with this network of leaders that we have who we work with year round, much like the Mutual Aid Hub operates. It's a network of leaders coming together to understand best practices, to convene, to talk through what their communities might be experiencing, and to learn from each other. And sorry, my computer's stuck. And so what we know, though, from Giving Tuesday is that these giving moments are what drives participation and why Giving Tuesday continues to work. However, again, it's just a day. It's not just a day. It's year round, but giving givers an opportunity to respond to a need, and that is exactly what you all are doing. And we want to learn more from you on how that works. But we also want to share anything that we have, anything that we know from a leadership perspective, from a movement building perspective, that would aid in the sustainability of the work that you're doing in your communities. So now I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Starling Collective. So the Starling Collective is a part of Giving Tuesday. It was stood up last year in the height of the pandemic. It was an opportunity to work with a group of leaders who had really great ideas around generosity and needed either some upskilling around leadership or sustainability, or how to scale an idea that they might have. And so it turned more into what we're calling an experimental learning lab. And we have opened up applications for what we are calling the third cohort, and it's global. We have leaders all over the world who are coming together to be a part of the 6-month cohort. And it's, again, leaning into the things that we know and learned, and why Giving Tuesday continues to grow. We're kind of leaning in on things that we know are working. So I want to talk a little bit about how the Starling Collective works. It is a cohort of leaders all over the world, and this cohort is really focused on the leader themselves and not so much just on the organization or what the project is. So we are, because we feel that there's an opportunity here to grow impact through more leaders in the community doing their work and learning how to sustain their work and learning how to activate their work, but also learning how to scale their work. So these are just, I guess you would say, modules of the different areas that we work through on the Starling Collective and what our approach is. It's very interactive. We have convenings of the cohort as a whole, but we also want to make sure that there are conversations that are relevant to something that you are dealing with. So we also have cohorts within the cohorts by part of the world. So we have for example, a US-Canada cohort within the Starling Collective, and it's to embody conversations and encourage conversations in a space where you could relate. We also have people who have, different language requirements. And so we have these cohorts to make sure that people are getting the information in a way that is meaningful to them. So, sorry, my computer keeps not wanting to work. So to give you an example of kind of some of the projects that are actually and programs and leaders and grassroots leaders that are in this cohort, these were what we were calling intervention types. These are the type of projects or programs that people were focused on in the Starling Collective. And the bubble represents more of one kind of intervention than the others. And our mutual aid group within the Starling Collectives has continued to grow and get bigger and bigger each year. Or I'm sorry, each year. We've only been doing it for 1 year, each cohort, sorry, as we go into our third cohort. But I wanted to give you some examples of some of the leaders from our previous cohorts. So this is Chloe Thompson, who actually was the leader who started GivingTuesday Spark. She saw a missed opportunity that GivingTuesday wasn't really tapping into kids and speaking to kids. And a couple of years ago, reached out to us via social media and asked if what we were doing specifically with kids, and hence now we have GivingTuesday Spark. But her specifically joined the Starling, was selected for the Starling cohort. And what she was doing at the time, again, this was at the height of the pandemic, the second quarter of last year. And she was putting together these STEM kits for people in her school, but also working with local pantries who were already delivering food to people, but they also obviously had children and families with them. And she was ensuring that the kids also got these STEM kits and these learning kits as part of the food distribution, but also making sure the kids in her school in LA, actually. So Chloe Thompson is from LA. And she continues this work in her community fridges as well. In Liberia, they again stood up a public health campaign. They felt that there was a lot of misinformation. Leaders in that country felt that there was a lot of misinformation that was being shared about the virus, about what people should do, and felt that a billboard and radio campaign was really important, and decided to build and use the funds for that. And then we had our leader in Jackson, Tennessee, who Allison, who had started converting, much like the mutual aid groups in this network who are doing this similar work, is the very beginning of the pandemic, saw that people needed food and in her community, and decided to start by adding food boxes to these free libraries. Now, fast forward, she has a network of hundreds and hundreds of people who keep, I think it's up to 25 of these, what she has now built are these food pantries that you see in a lot of communities with the basic needs, and they continue to be filled by this network that she has created of just community leaders who kind of manage it and take care of it. But it all started with a very small seed grant and an idea, and went from there in Jackson. So to give you a little idea, give you some idea of who's also in this group, we do, it is very important for us to ensure that a lot of the work that is being done is moving the needle on equity. And we are excited when we got our feedback. There was a lot of changes we made in this first 2 years, this first two cohorts of the Starling Collective. But to hear the changes that were being made for these leaders personally was it was amazing to not only hear, but more importantly, making them a more competent leader and an ability to either share their story better, figure out how to fund their work better. But it was also training that they just didn't have access to in any other place. But also what's important to us is, again, that these programs and the work that we do at GivingTuesday is steeped in what local leaders feel is the best way, most relevant way to grow this work. And so we have regional directors who actually manage this program. And these are a group of our leaders who are all over the world, who are actually working with groups in their respective countries and continents to get the word out about Starling, to help with application selection. And this is this wonderful group of leaders that we work with all over the world. So I listed a little bit on the selection process. So I know that, if you've not looked at the application, you'll notice it's short, and we're trying to make it as short and nimble as of an application process as possible. And we just want to get to the most important information. But then also in the selection process, these are kind of the areas in which we evaluate the applications. And there's more information about the selection process on the FAQs on the website. And this is the website to go to. We'll throw this link again in the chat as well, and it'll be in every notice that Ricky sends out. But we wanted to get in front of you today as quickly as we could, because the application deadline is coming up on September the 1st. So that is the 411 on the Starling, and and we're obviously open for questions, but I would be remiss if I did not say that we want to come to this group for many more conversations to learn from one another. But we wanted to start with Starling and talk through maybe the other ways that we can partner Mutual Aid Hub and GivingTuesday, because as you see, a lot of the work and the way in which we operate is very much in line with the way that mutual aid groups organize, provide impact, and their approach to this expression of generosity. So Ricky or anybody?
Yeah, thank you, Celeste. That's such a wonderful presentation, and it was so informative and interesting to learn about the different participants and history of GivingTuesday and the Starling Collective. Does anyone have any immediate questions about Starling Collective stuff? So we can sort of get that out of the way. Don't be shy. You can raise hands. You can put it in the chat aloud if you'd rather type it.
I will have to say, yes, Ricky, Chloe is really cool, and you'll have to be in touch. We'll have to put you in touch with her. So she's also filling up fridges all over LA during the, how we talked about fridges the last time. I'm wondering if it was similar, same project or program, but that she does it all, has her own organization. And
well, it's so critical to get people participating and getting their schools involved, and it's so nice to see it at such a young age too. We have some participants who are at college age, and another one who just emailed who I want to try and maybe create a conversation at some point in the near future about mutual aid in higher education. Yeah, this is like junior high. So.
I know, it's amazing when some of the they're not kids, young people who are leaders in our Spark group are just phenomenal in the way they see the world, and it's and then the actions and the no fear that they possess, and definitely Chloe, I think came to us at 9, and I'm like, what was I doing at 9? None of this. And so it's really, really impressive. It's really, 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 yep, she does. I'm an Army volunteer. So it's really, really impressive and really important to engage that group. But I love the idea of working with those in higher education and that piece of it from a mutual aid perspective. So I can't wait to hear more about that.
Yeah, well, and if no one else has any questions, I have a couple.
Yes, please.
Just if I am an organizer of a mutual aid project and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not sure if I belong or if this is the right fit, what can you tell me about, the sort of parameters, I guess, of what kind of groups we're considering and, what kind of projects make sense?
Absolutely, that's really a great question, and I'll encourage any of my colleagues on the call to answer. But the mutual aid work is very much a part of Starling, and really since the beginning. So an individual, for one, can apply. You don't have to be part of an organization. And this cohort in particular, we really are looking for leaders who have an idea or are working on something, but something that would add to their current work. I know a lot of mutual aid groups right now are really trying to, I think somebody said, like, tread water and really stay sustainable and continue the work. And we understand that, because there's some element to your work that we could, that is new, that is something that we can learn from. And then it's maybe something that another mutual aid group could maybe learn and adapt and go. That's really our point. So we're looking at the leader and the leadership and the potential there, but then also, the project itself, what is it that could be additive to your work. But to your base question, mutual aid is very much a part. Mutual aid groups, leaders, we had a lot of them in this last group, everything from the anti-sewing squad to a network of community. The mutual aid hub itself, actually, under a town hall project, was one of those projects that we supported, and the leadership was a part of the cohort. So and we have kids too. So I'll point that out. Thanks for putting that in there, Ricky. When we were talking about kids and youth, I think our youngest in the last Starling cohort was 11 and our oldest was 71. So there is a place for everyone. Kids have great ideas too. And so, that is, please apply. Please don't hesitate to reach out and ask questions as well. We're available for that.
Yeah, thank you, Celeste. I mean, that seems to be the sort of main thesis there is, apply. And if you think you might be interested, go for it. And then, so, now that you're this deep in, and like, maybe you spoke to this a little bit, but like, are you going back and sort of involving the previous cohorts in, are they speaking or like involved, how are you sharing knowledge between the different sessions?
Ricky, you're asking all the great questions, and I didn't even ask you to ask these questions. Yes, I mean, that's what's very important to us. I mean, Giving Tuesday as a whole, we are about a network learning from each other. And so any way that we can continue to make that happen, to engineer it or engineer serendipity, we will. But yes, the Starling alumni are also part of the program. They'll be speaking on panels. They, when you're coming into this, it's not just the program itself for 6 months, but then it is a network of alumni to lean on at different points in your path. And so if there's an opportunity to create a mentor-mentee relationship, or if there's someone else working in this space in another part of the country, or in another country, or somebody working closely to your backyard, and is there something that y'all could do together? But we're really about making the network interconnected, and that's because that's where the value is. We don't want the people coming to us as the Giving Tuesday team and information coming down. We need people connecting at this level. We try very hard to make sure that happens.
Lovely. Elizabeth, jump in.
Yeah, so I know so many community organizers and mutual aid organizers are encountering like burnout currently, just with everything that's been going on and how much need there is, and how prolonged the need has been, at least responding to COVID. And so I'm curious, what is the involvement, or what is the level of involvement? And then also like, what kinds of activities and things can one expect to specifically do within those times of involvement together?
Hear you a million times over. But yes, I'm gonna totally put him on the spot. But Cornel, if you are there, he is on our team and is actually working very closely on those commitments. But we're really trying to balance your time and the time of that you are spending within the cohort. There are general cohort, cohort sessions, like tentpole sessions, and then there'll be smaller cohort conversations happening. And the smaller cohort conversations are the regional ones that I talked about, where you're talking to people who are either very the evolution of your country is similar, or you're close to each other in proximity. But the I can't remember the cadence. And so if Cornel's there, or if Asha.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Hi.
Cornel, sorry, just threw you like for a loop. He was like, I was just supposed to be on, I just wanted to hear. But
No
yeah,
wor-
a little
no
bit
wor-
about the commitment, because I think it's a great question.
Yeah, no worries. So to back it up just 1 second, I'd say kind of coming into the experience, one can expect somewhat of a boot camp for them as a leader in terms of growing and developing their capacity. And when it comes down to their project, initiative, or campaign that they're leading, they can see this as some sort of an acceleration, right? So how do we help accelerate, grow, and scale the work that they're doing? So in terms of time commitment, what can be expected is somewhat on an average about 10 hours a month in terms of commitment. There's 4 hours in programming. And so there's kind of the global programming, and then there's the regional programming that happens. And then they have allocated time of an hour that they could use for one-to-one coaching with their regional director. And then there will be, some mentorship hours that can be taken account for as well. And then there's some activities like post-session activities that we kind of suggest. And with just kind of thinking about just connecting with other leaders through our shared learning platform and just kind of one-to-one, it's probably about 10 hours or so, of commitment, a month. And we thought very, very carefully about really honoring, to your point, Elizabeth, that there's fatigue. And this is just like Celeste said, this is something that oftentimes is being done on the side. So with all those things into account, we think about a good 10 hours of dedicated commitment will be what will be the bang for their buck. And then we have in the middle, we're having a summit that's going to be, amazing. And that'll be another kind of 2 hours that happen. And then we wrap up with a pitch competition, as well. So I think it's the right amount of time and a great experience that your mutual aid organizers don't want to miss out. So in the theme, to continue with Celeste's theme, apply, apply, apply.
And I think that's a really good point too. Asha put in the comments about the connection and the community sometimes countered the burnout. And that was actually some of the feedback. So I supported the US and Canada cohorts in the last 2 cohorts of Starling Collective. And that was actually a lot of the feedback was, I'm really tired and I really didn't want to come to this, but I came to it because I knew that I was going to get good, at least the feeling that I needed, or the energy that I needed, or the community that is sitting with me in the same space and the same point. And we're all very tired and we need to, let's do some reflection. So hopefully that will counter, but also be mindful of your time.
Yeah, thank you. And that definitely is something that we've encountered on, these calls over the summer, the ones over the beginning of the summer were, had more attendance. And then, now people are getting ready to go back to school and all this kind of stuff and have kids and everything else. So, and just the travel over the summer, I think a lot of people have been trying to get in travel that has been hard to schedule for a long time. And maybe this is our window to get it all in. And so there's been a lot of that for us. And then also just, the changing availability of people and how that changes the structure of the organization. So yeah, really appreciate all that thought that you put into it. And I think that'll be a big motivator for a lot of the people in our network. So then, and we have Zoya joining us. Hello, Zoya, welcome. We are recording this, and so we're going to make that recording available later on. So you'll be able to catch up on what you missed, but we're just talking about the Starling Collective here and asking questions about this. And we just heard about the time commitment, which is about 10 hours a month, I think is what I got. And so how long total is the program?
6 months.
6 months.
And in the spirit of feedback, if some of Connections to Connections are aware of the prior cohorts, it was 5 weeks, and we heard very loud and clear from those who went through the experience, and so we were able to spread it out over the course of 6 months with a lot of interaction baked in, and power of community at the core of this. So yeah.
Wonderful. And so for me, unless anyone else has any questions about Starling Collective specifically, I think, that kind of wraps that for me. I feel like we've covered it pretty well. Do we want to maybe speak to like other ways that we feel like, the network of mutual aid organizations that are part of Mutual Aid Hub could maybe interact with Giving Tuesday in the future? Obvious thing that springs to mind for me is maybe another one of these kind of calls, like closer to Giving Tuesday, just talking about strategies and, promotion. But, I'm curious what everyone else's thoughts are.
Well, I'll speak up a little bit of some things that we talked about, Ricky. I agree with you 100%. I hope this is what is the start of a beautiful relationship. But more importantly, I think there's an opportunity to be a resource in any way that this community and this network feels comfortable and with, but also in any way that we can be helpful that is relevant. So yes, something closer from a tactical perspective, something closer to Giving Tuesday on, effective storytelling and, activations that people might consider, including raising money and other ways to use the day as a kind of a flag in the ground, to use it intentionally. We know that this is all happening on that day, and I know that people are have a million other things going on. And so I want people to think of it though, as a way to support your work and not an add-on to your work. And we can talk through that, that people use the day with intention. And we can talk about examples of how other mutual aid groups might be using that day. But more importantly, I would love to uncover, and maybe it's during the next call, is other areas of work that mutual aid groups want to hear about, want to talk about. I know that you have these monthly calls. If there's a subject area or something that we can be a part of and support of, we'd love to know. And we come to you from a place of wanting to understand and to know more. And we have a huge network of people who are doing this work, and they span they all come at this conversation and this work from different places. We do have our mutual aid, leaders. We have grassroots leaders are going to need something different than some of the leaders who are coming from a resource organization or community foundation, all in the spirit of creating more generosity in their communities. But we want to use what we know and the interconnected network that we have to be supportive of this network. So if there are other things that we can uncover during maybe more of a brainstorm conversation, in addition to how to intentionally use Giving Tuesday, I think those are great points of intersection. We also, had a call with Elizabeth, and as in our journey of learning a little bit more, or a lot more about mutual aid and community care work, there might be some opportunities to talk further about impact and a bigger understanding of all the complexities and the of mutual aid work. We certainly want to be mindful of that, but I hope this is a conversation of tactical things that we could help with, but then also how we can learn from one another, and specifically if there's any information that we can learn about and impact. Oh, yeah. And then, I love that in-kind giving, and just great to know more about how all of this works together. So Yeah, I hope we have some people from the network, part of the Starling Collective. I'm grateful for the time and would love more of it during these calls if it's helpful to talk about Giving Tuesday or how to use it intentionally, and then any other subjects. And then as we observe, there might be other things that we come to this group for to hear more about and to ask for. So, and ask of. But anyway, we come in service.
Love it. Elizabeth, did you want to read what you posted in the chat out loud just for the people on the recording?
Oh yeah, totally. So I was thinking about the community fridges specifically because we have a large network of them in Los Angeles, and I know several other cities, Portland and a couple in the South, have larger networks of community fridges. I think Boston has them too. So I was curious about like in-kind giving. Would be great to know more about, specifically like reaching out for items from companies for community support, like hygiene kits, or restaurants and supermarket food redistribution. So stuff that would either normally be thrown out, or just items that could be given to community groups to then redistribute through the community, and how that works and what that looks like. So like business to organization giving for community redistribution.
Absolutely. Huge topic for us, and that would be a great one to revisit. I think, does anyone else have any thoughts to add before I go into the plug for the next stuff? Okay, so
I do.
Oh yes, please. So yeah.
Hi guys, I joined late. I'm on the road, but I really wanted to make this meeting. I don't know what you guys covered. I'm sorry, but I'm part of these groups where we promote things on Twitter, and we've done candidates. We've made things trend, but right now, the taste on the left for electoral politics has waned. So I wanted to shift focus into mutual aid things, and we're still going to boost some electoral stuff, but I wanted to promote the work that you guys are doing, separate organizations or in-kind mutual aid, the stuff that you guys are discussing. I don't know what's the best way to present, your individual initiatives or specific orgs, but I wanted to somehow, exchange information with you guys and organize that and get that going.
Well, I can just say we completely appreciate it, Zoya, and we're very excited to have you participating and, helping signal boost and amplify. And we'd love to talk strategies about that. You can DM the Twitter account, which is Mutual Aid Hub. You can contact us through this email, which is hub@groundgamela.org, which I'll drop into the chat here. And then, just any way you want to get a hold of us, we'd love to keep that discussion going. Obviously,
I'm sorry. So this hub at groundgame.org, if I reach out through there, is that how I contact you?
Yes, absolutely. So, and it will go to some of the other organizers who are part of the group as well. And so we can all, like Elizabeth and Nathan from Town Hall Project, which is now People's Town Hall. That's a great way to get a hold of us. And then there's a central email account that other people can check. It will be sustained even after the people who are currently, central phase out. There will be a record there in the hub account for other people to come and take over. And so that's one of the reasons that we ended up setting up a separate email account. It was at the beginning an email group that just went to several of us, but we modified that particularly for that reason. So that's the best long-term durable way to get a hold of us, but also, messaging on Twitter or something like that. We can always bring that together. We have a signal group going that you can put into as well. And so if anyone wants any of that information, you can email hub@groundgamela.org. It's on the Mutual Aid Hub website as well at the bottom. And so that's a good like central point of contact to share with other people as well, because it supports, you know, taking the conversation to different channels and stuff like that. But we are definitely going to share a wrap up of this call with the recording. We're getting that whole pipeline built where we can make the recording, share the recording, and then you know, create a playlist of all of these stuff so people could just sit there and, you know, watch mutual aid content for hours and hours. But, you know, particularly with the Giving Tuesday Starling Collective, we're going to be sharing this link again before the application deadline, which is September 1st, along with the recording to this call. And then we're going to be having another meeting, you know, potentially in the future with the Giving Tuesday folks about, you know, Giving Tuesday itself, which follows Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And then, you know, I think we already talked a second ago about the mutual aid in higher education, which seems like a topic that all of us are interested in. And then, you know, just to remind everyone, on September 1st, we have mutual aid for incarcerated people with David Brazil of New Orleans Mutual Aid Society and Abolition Apostles. And so, you know, we can, we'll be sending out more emails about that. But again, if you'd like to, you know more about that, you can always just email hub@groundgamela.org. And here in the chat, I will drop a link to our latest email. But does anyone else have any final
can I
things
also-
here in our
can-
last 5 minutes? Yeah, go ahead, Zoya.
I'm so sorry. Can I please also ask whoever is willing to participate or has mutual aid organizations they would like to highlight to drop your Twitter handle into the chat? Because that way I'll grab it from there and I'll reach out to you guys individually.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we can keep this conversation going too, on Twitter and in DMs and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I love to keep building out that network and promoting, you know, the different efforts and, you know, helping people communicate. All right.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you, Asha. Celeste, Madeline, Cornel, thank you so much. And thank you, Elizabeth, for with me.
And we look forward to having y'all back to talk more about like Giving Tuesday and the actual logistics of like doing a campaign for mutual aid.
We look forward to it.
I love it. Yes, we do. We do. Thanks for the invitation back.